Hi everyone, my name is Lori, my nickname is Rini, and this is Rini Bobini Creations. So we've been on tutorial number 5, I believe, of our dragon boxes. So we've been working on these. The first one we did the eye, second one we applied the eye and put the ridges around. The third one we did the scales and the bricks, and I think maybe we're actually on the fourth one because now we're doing the claws. Sorry, I think I mixed up which ones we're on. So actually, last week I actually did a tutorial and I went to upload it and I realized I was having camera problems and all you could really see was my arm. Sorry about that. Anyway, so this is what we did that you couldn't see. So I did go ahead and I prepped a box so we could try again. I do have some new equipment coming which should hopefully help greatly with the camera and with the lighting as well. So hopefully it comes soon, but we're going to try again anyway before it gets here. So if you are new to my channel, or you've seen me on Facebook or whatever, please hit a like. Leave a comment. I would love it, love it, love it if you would subscribe. I've got some different crafts coming up as soon as we're done the dragon box. So yeah, go ahead and be part of our channel and we'll learn some new stuff together. So I'm going to go ahead and get the camera ready so you can see what I'm doing and we'll carry on with our dragon boxes. Okay, so for the project for putting the claw on, and we are also going to start on the wizard anyway, we are of course going to need some things. So we'll need our trusty glue gun, our Mod Podge, scissors, and these are just little jewelry clippers for cutting the wire. I'm going to use the skewer from the Dollar Tree. You get a whole bunch of them for like $1, but they're going to provide the framework and they're just easier to cut with these. These little fake sort of jewels, we're going to use those to make the scales. We've used them before as well. And of course our tissue paper, paintbrush and water for our Mod Podge, and a paper towel. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing you need to do to provide the framework is we're going to do 3 claws. So we need to cut actually 6, so 2 longer and 2 shorter. So when you clip these, put your hand around them or they go flying across the room. I've noticed. I find them all over my craft room from when I wasn't paying attention. So 1, and they don't have to be perfectly the same size. 2, now you can see how that one's split. It doesn't, you can still use it, it will still work. But these actually work better than trying to split them any other way. Actually, they don't split pretty bad. Maybe we'll skip that one. So we need 6 altogether. Okay, so we've got our 6. So you have to kind of decide where you want them placed on your box. So because I'm going to do a wizard, I'm actually going to do the wizard on one side and have the claw sort of on the other side. So I think I will actually do the claw at the top. I'm going to do that. And I think that makes more sense. So you're going to do them in sort of a fan shape. Now you want to give yourself a little bit of room at the bottom, like right here, because we're going to do sort of, I guess, the palm of the dragon claw. So just sort of place them where you think they're going to work. And then, oh, I didn't plug in my glue gun. Hang on. Okay, so now that my glue gun is turned on and working, I'm just going to glue these in place. And like I said, just in the shape of a fan. Now this is another part of the project that you are going to need a fair amount of glue, hot glue for. So make sure you've got sticks. And they don't have to be down really well because you're going to go over them with the glue stick in a moment. This is just sort of the framework. Whoops. Go, and one more. So just sort of in that sort of a fan shape, just like that. So now for the next, we're going to put the knuckles on. Now you can again sort of place them how you want them to look. Now I'm going to place mine sort of like that. But what we're going to do first is we're going to give him a knuckle. So all we're going to do to give him the knuckle is just a bunch of glue, just like that, just like a bubble of glue or a little ball of glue, and that's going to be his knuckle. Now we will probably have to add some more to him after, but again, we're just working on the framework here. So now while it's still wet, you can just pop that in there, because as I said, we're going to go over it again with more glue, so we just want it to sort of hold in place while we do that. Now this last one I did a bit close, so he's going to have to be a bit straighter, but I am going to bend him a little. And we can, how it jogs there, we can fix with the hot glue. That's what we're kind of going to do. In fact, I think I'm just going to move him over a bit right now. There, that's a little bit better. So now it's sticking to me instead of the box. There we go. And all these little strings, they will play into it. You won't even see them. They'll be fine. Okay, so I'm going to go over that knuckle again just to help hold them, especially on the one I moved, and just here a bit too. But now we're going to keep going with our glue gun, and we're going to go over the claws and give him some more depth, I guess. Just like that. So like I said, you are going to go through a fair amount of glue here. And then for sort of the palm, we're just going to do a triangle of glue. Just something to build it up so we can put our scales on. I'm going to go over the front part as well with the glue gun again. And don't worry if the knuckle's not still sticking up, because we're going to add something to that later to make that happen. All right, I'm just going to touch up a few spots here. Now while that's setting up, there. So while our glue is setting up, we're going to take our fake diamond thing, and I'm going to cut it to the length of the fingers except for the knuckle. So I'm just going to cut out a row. And this is stuff I just had left over from other projects, so it's a great way to use up your little bits and pieces. And like I've said in other tutorials, if you don't have exactly what I have, but you have something that would work, please, by all means, use it. I'm all about reusing and recycling. So you're just sort of going to measure how long you need. Cut it off and place it on top. Now, if your glue is already set up, just go ahead and give it some more glue. Otherwise, it should still stick in there just long enough for it to become, like if it's tacky and it just sticks, because again, we're going to need to go over it with our tissue paper. So everything will hold in place, even if it's not a perfect hold right now. And sometimes what I'll do too is if it's just sort of too hard to stick, I won't squeeze my trigger, I'll just heat it up again with the tip of the glue gun, just enough for it to sit in there. This one we're going to do a little bit shorter. 1, 2, 3. And again, if you're new to this is the first time you're seeing the tutorials, do go back and check out the other ones that got us to this point. And you don't have to do a box, book covers, and I've done wine bottles and all kinds of different things, so it doesn't have to be a box. I was just working on the box. The techniques are all the same. The only thing I would say is if you are working on a glass surface, you have to do the tissue paper first if you want everything to stick. So do a layer of tissue paper before. Sometimes you can, like with the box, I didn't have to do the tissue paper base first. I just did so it would be easier for things to show up. But if you are working on glass, or plastic for that matter, you definitely need to do that layer of tissue paper first, or things don't stick real well to it. So now that this is set up pretty good, you can see I'm not really squeezing the trigger. I'm just heating that up a bit again here just so it will stick. Again, skip the knuckle, leave that space there. We'll fill in the knuckle in a bit here. Oh, that one still is tacky good. And the last one. So I know it looks really kind of awful right now, but when we put the tissue paper on, when we're done, it really looks pretty amazing actually. I'm really pleased with the look that it gives it. I did see a lady, she did a dragon scales and she used sequins and it looked amazing. I am not that patient to do a sequin at a time, I'm afraid, and I get frustrated too quick. But if you are a very patient person, that looked really amazing too. She just did the sequins on the top and then you can do it in any color that you want. Now I am cutting a little bit here for the bottom to go over the palm, if that's what you would call this, or the pad, I guess, of the dragon. So now he's got his scales. So now back to the knuckle again, because now that we've put our scales on, the knuckle sort of blended into it, it's not really showing. We're going to go back over that knuckle one more time, give it one more glob of glue to bring up the knuckle, just like that. So then when we put our tissue paper on, it'll give it the dimension of the knuckle. Now I think you can see, I hope you can see that it's sort of oozing there, so I may even go over it one more time because as it melts, it sort of oozes down. Okay, I think that's going to be okay. Now for the claws, I'm just going to use my glue gun. I have cut the tips off of these in the past to give me sort of a framework again for the claw. They work really well. I happen to be running out of them right now, so I'm just going to use the glue gun. I have also used, there was some stickers, there we go. These guys, they're going to be a little bit small, I think, for this particular project, so I'm not going to use them this time, but I have, as I said, find things that you have around that will work for you, and go ahead and use whatever. So for the claws, I am just going to use the glue gun on this. So I'm going to do a blob, and then I'm going to draw it out to a point. Same here, a blob, and draw it out to a point. Oh, I'm going to give him a better point. And because this one's going over the side, I'm just going to do a little blob like it's going, but I'm not going to do the whole thing. So that's all we need to do for that. So now while our claw sets up, I'm just going to have a look for any little flaws where maybe the glue didn't go quite where I wanted it to. Just even it out a bit. Again, we can even out quite a bit with the tissue paper, but there's a few spots that when the glue starts to dry and it oozes, it maybe makes it a bit more uneven than we want. But I think that's pretty good now. So while that sets up, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the wizard. Now the wizard is probably the thing that will take up most of your glue, so I know I'm going to need another glue stick here already. So let me just show you the wizard. So I hope you can see this okay. So this is our wizard. In this one I've got him holding like a crystal ball. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to have holding in this one, but we'll go ahead and get started with the framework of the wizard. So with the wizard, kind of figure out where you want him placed. I'm going to kind of keep him in the middle. I know I'm going to need that glue stick. And then we're just going to do sort of to start just a frame like that. Now that just sort of gives us an outline. We'll see as we go here. So then I'm going to go in to about there for the folds of his robe. And you're going to let that sort of set up. Now we are going to use quite a bit of the tissue paper on this project as well to help build him up. So now to do this, we're going to need his sleeves too. So I'm going to go back over his head. I'm going to come out just a little bit and bring him in. Because while one's drying, you can go back to the other one. Oh, I got the lid off there. So, again, we've done this sort of a Mod Podge technique before where we're going to pounce it in to really make the scales stand out. So I'm going to get some Mod Podge on my brush. I'm going to place it on my dragon claw. And then I'm going to take my tissue paper. And you kind of want to pounce it so the scales really show. Now don't worry if they poke through, we can do another layer, and they tend to on these little guys. They'll poke through a bit and we can do another layer. And really around the claws too, so they're really defined. So we really want to define, make sure that all those scales are really standing out so you can see them. And then when we go to do our painting over them, we'll be able to see them and they'll stand out quite well. Because the paint, when we do the highlighting, it just goes on the parts that are sort of sticking up. And that's what gives it the real dimension. So now I'm going to let that one dry. Oh, we'll do that little corner. And if you do let them dry in between, I find they don't poke through as much the next time. So we'll let that dry. Now we're back to our little wizard here. Now on this one, I'm going to give them a bit more definition. So we're going to go back over those sleeves because we want them to stand up. And this time, I'm going to fill in the sleeve. Yep, already need more glue sticks. Oops, sorry guys. Okay. Now I am going to flare the robe out a little bit. Not too much, just a little. I did one too much and I kind of thought it looked goofy, actually. And then I'm going to fill in this with some robe as well. Now with the wizard, oh, come on, stick for me. There you go. We are going to use a lot more of the tissue paper and almost do it like we're doing paper mache. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tissue paper and I'm actually going to, now this gets a bit messy, but it will have a great effect. I'm going to paint the paper with the Mod Podge before I put it on. So this is where you want to sort of protect your surface. I'm hoping you can see me with my camera being what it is. So I'm just painting the surface of it, and then I'm going to roll it up. And it doesn't have to be a nice roll at all. I'm just going to smush it up like that. And then I'm going to place it on. Just like that. And go over it with some more Mod Podge. And then for the sleeves, my first layer, I'm going to fold it so I have a clean edge. I'm going to fold it again so it's a bit thinner, but I still have some thickness to it. I'm going to put it this way. And this one I'm going to fold like that so that I have the sort of shape of the sleeves. And I'm going to Mod Podge that on. And we've got several layers to go, so if it's not quite what you're looking for, don't worry, you can fix it as we go. Again, I'm going to fold the tissue paper. Fold it again. Place it where I want it, and then, oh, good, it was still tacky, that actually helped. Fold it to follow the frame of my wizard. And I'm just kind of going to keep doing that for a bit. And just layering it. Now you can start to see him sort of pulling out of the framework here. And I'm just going to start to go over him. I'm going to do the sleeves one more time. And then we're going to start adding some more glue to give it a little bit better shape. You can see how he's starting to sort of stand out from the box, and that's what we want. We're not worried about the details yet, we just want him to pop out of the box. We'll get to the details here in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes because we're going to apply some more of our glue gun on there. Now we're going to go back to our claw while that one's drying. And we're going to give him just another layer just because there are some spots he's poking through. And again, if you are just tuning in and you haven't seen it before, you don't have to use the black tissue paper. I have some black tissue paper, but we're going to paint it when we're done. So whatever you have around is fine. It's a great way. I'm so into recycle, reuse. So, you know, the ones you get in your birthday presents or whatever, I always keep that and I always use it up. So anything like that would be just fine. So again, pouncing it so that the scales stand out. Actually, that looks pretty good, I think. I don't see any other spots. And it'll be when we do the painting and the highlighting that you'll really see how that claw is going to stand out. So now this is dried enough. We don't need it to be perfectly dry. But what I'm going to do now with my glue gun, we are not going to see the wizard's face, but in order to make it sort of pop out, I'm going to do a big layer of glue in here, like it's his head. It's going to be covered, but then I don't have to build up quite so much. And same with the sleeves. I'm going to do a big line where the sleeves would meet. and sort of a triangle out, or I guess a bit of a square almost, and then just sort of taper it. So I hope you can see with my arm in the way here. And now we do need to let that one set up for a bit. So I'm going to just put her on pause here for a few minutes while that glue sets up, and then I'll be back with you. Okay, so now that it's set up there, we're going to cover him with some tissue paper, just to make him a little bit more sticky so the paper sticks better as we go here. So I'm just going to put a layer on. And another Mod Podge too. And this is where we're going to start really building out the details of our wizard. So there is quite a lot involved to the boxes. They're not difficult, but there's quite a few different aspects to it, I guess. All right, so now for the hood. I'm going to take a piece and fold it in half. And we're kind of going to just curve it a bit. And I think you can start to see how this hood is going to work. And you're not going to pounce it down. In fact, I'm kind of going to leave a little bit of space, but I am going to Mod Podge it quite well so it becomes stiff. So like that. And I'm going to do a few of those layers. Alright, so just keep going over it. Oops. So we don't want too many wrinkles, like on the box itself. We like the wrinkles because it brings out some of the texture. But we kind of don't want to do that on the hood. Now this is the part that requires some patience, and because you have to wait for things to dry for it to really work really well. So while that's drying, I'm going to do similar to the sleeve. So again, I'm not going to pounce it in this time. I'm just going to kind of get it set there. I'm going to put enough Mod Podge on to be stiff. And if some of the wrinkles are still showing through, that's fine, because you're going to do, oops, I keep forgetting the under layer here for some reason. You're going to do a few layers, and so those layers together will help with that. Oh, I'm having issues today. All right. The other sleeve. Let's remember to put the Mod Podge underneath this time. So just smoothing it out like that, and you can start to see the sleeves and the hood here. And we are going to go up the arm a bit as well. I think I'll see if that will work. And between coats, unfortunately, we do need to let them dry, but while I'm waiting for this one to dry a bit, you don't need to let them dry all the way, just so they're not too slippery, so they're tacky more than wet. But I'm going to just get the rest of the robe on, and you'll see how that works. Okay. Oh, I have my paintbrush still over in front of me. So this one you do want to pounce a little bit because you do want to see the folds of the robe.